Today is a great, wonderful, amazing, incredible day, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a Denmark day. Denmark announces compulsory military service for women. Without further ado, let's get into this reaction. Let's go.
More proof that Russia's wartime reach extends well beyond the front lines in eastern Ukraine. For the first time ever, Denmark plans to draft both men and women into military service. It's only the third European country to do so, following Norway and Sweden. Beginning in 2026, the government wants to call up 5,000 co-ed conscripts a year. And the government says the decision is in reaction to the war in Ukraine and the...
Wow. Did he say 5,000 or 2,000? Say that again.
Beginning in 2026, the government wants to call up 5,000 co-ed conscripts a year.
5,000 co-ed conscripts a year, which will include men and women. That's really interesting. We don't have anything like that, conscription or anything like that in the UK. So for me, it's like, wow, that's serious. That's a lot. Like, and the fact that it's men and women, I think is right? It should be the case, because it shouldn't be the case that it should be only men, because then that would be sexist. And I feel like, you know, we live in a Western societies where, you know, everything should be equal. And if men get called up to serve, women should get called up to serve as well. So that's how I feel. But how do you guys feel? Let me know in the comment section, because, yeah, it's interesting.
And the government says the decision is in reaction to the war in Ukraine and the Russian threat in Western Europe's backyard.
Right.
Here's the Danish Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, speaking earlier today.
Protecting your country is one of the most honorable things you can do. That's why the government is proposing that we expand conscription, making the responsibility greater and the tasks more numerous. And we're proposing full gender equality. We have no doubt that increased gender equality will create a more modern and diverse defense that reflects the times we live in.
Okay.
Well, I'm joined now.
Do you know what's funny to me? This is why it's shocking as a Brit, is that they couldn't do that in the UK. Not the gender equality situation. Yes, they could do that in the UK. It's conscription. Conscription, it actually worries me about my own country, because in England, if they said, oh, we're going to have mandatory conscription and we want people to serve, I'm worried that people would actually take up arms. I'm not sure if they'll be able to convince the British public to fight in the name of Britain and go and fight Russia and all these. I'm not too sure it would have the support of the people. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong. There's a way to twist it. I say twist it, but it's twisting it to make people feel patriotic, right? There's a way to do it. They'd have to have a full campaign to push a rhetoric to make people want to fight for the country. It would take a while in Britain. It wouldn't be just like your I don't know, she's prime minister or whatever. She just had a press conference and she just said it. They couldn't do that in the UK. They would need to have a whole campaign pushing for it to happen. So this is very interesting.
By Anna-Sophie Alarm. She's a Danish lawyer, author, and journalist, and she joins us tonight from the capital of Denmark, Copenhagen. It's good to have you with us. Maybe if you could put us in the mind of the Danes. Explain to us why
I would like to know.
Making the military service more co-ed. Why is that so important right now?
Well, we are in the middle of an effort to really reinvigorate, or even maybe reinvent the Danish defense forces. There's been cutbacks for years. There's been a lot of different scandals and trouble within the Danish defense forces. And they also have the problem that it's very difficult to keep their personnel. We have a lot of people leaving again. So this is, in fact, you have to see this as the government's effort to really try and create something entirely new. new. So it's not just also the female conscription, but it's a much longer conscription than before. Before it was 4 months, now it's going to be 11 months. And also quite a big boost of money also going into the defense forces, about 6 billion euros over the next 5 years.
Wow, so they're spending a lot more, extending the time that you have to be conscripted into the military. Interesting, saying that there's been less people wanting to join the military. I wonder why. I do feel like our appetite for war is not there. We don't want to fight in a war. Gen Z, millennials, we're not like our grandparents and parents, and we think we have the internet. Let's put it plainly, right? We have information, and information can get to us quicker. They can't just feed us a certain narrative, because unfortunately we live in the West. Unfortunately for them, we live in the West, where we have access to a lot of information, a lot of different ideas, thoughts, feelings, and we know a little bit more of the truth. And that's the reason why are not willing to fight wars for the government, fighting their wars, that's funded by us involuntarily. Because I mean, we don't vote whether we go to war or not. We can't anymore. We used to be able to. Did you know that? We used to be able to vote whether we spend our money going to wars. Now they just say we're going to war, and we're gonna take it out your paycheck through taxes. Anyways, basically our appetite for war is not there, and that's why they need to reintroduce conscription and longer serving, serving longer in the army and stuff. This is interesting. Don't be surprised if you start seeing a lot more military adverts on your television, telling you how amazing it is to serve your country, and yeah, this is what they do. I don't believe people want to fight the war and don't believe in the war. Anyways, let's continue.
I'm wondering why Denmark has had a problem with retention. I mean, why have people been leaving the military?
Why?
I think it's many different things. Some are organizational, some has to do with salary, opportunities, leadership, but it's quite significant out of a body of maybe 5 to 7 to 9,000 staff, not conscripts, but staff. 2,000 in 2022 left. So it's quite a return of people that you have to get in and retrain, etc.
Interesting that she said the reason why people are leaving is because, salary and pay and money. It's got nothing to do with the fact that you're going to send your people out to fight and risk their lives, bombing countries, and they don't even really know why they're fighting the war that they're fighting. She listed everything but the root problem with war. That's crazy, right? You see? I'm not going crazy, right? She avoided the elephant in the room.
And of course, new conscripts does not fix that problem, but it's a new start.
We said earlier in the program that this decision is in reaction to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Russian threat to Western Europe. But your foreign minister has said that, and I'm quoting here, Russia does not pose a threat to Denmark. Is he right?
Oh, really? The foreign minister says Russia doesn't pose a threat to Denmark. Interesting.
I think that is also political. We want to say that we don't think that Russia at this point poses a territorial threat to Denmark, but we perceive Russia to be a threat on Europe in general. And we also do have, along with Sweden and Finland, a neighborhood within the Baltic Sea, and that means that we are neighbors with Russia. And we feel, particularly after the invasion of Ukraine, that threat to be quite present and potent.
In this attempt to bulk up the military, to make the military more attractive to civilians, how much of that is...
I'm laughing because of the way he's speaking. He's like, oh, to make the military more attractive to civilians. Is it just me? The language that he's using, calling them civilians, making it more attractive to civilians, that it just... I had just like a very visceral, very like a really visual view of civilians. Like the way he just spoke about people was like disposable. I know he didn't mean it in that way. But when he said, you know, to make it more attractive to civilians, because we need more of the little people to go out and fight the wars, you know. That's somebody's brother, uncle, cousin, you know, sister even, now that we have more females joining. And you just call them civilians. I don't know, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into it. But I just feel like it just shows like they just need the numbers. They don't care. They just need the numbers. We need people to fight the battle. Yeah. We need people to risk their lives. You know, the civilians.
Reaction to the pressure that we saw under former U.S. President Donald Trump for all of NATO members to pay that 2% of GDP to NATO. How much of it is a reaction to that, and how much of it is maybe a preparation for a possible second Donald Trump presidency?
I think a lot of factors play together right now. We have the war in Ukraine. Also, we see, and the Danes are very strong allies to Ukraine, big donors also of aircraft. So that's one thing. We see the war not going that well from a Ukrainian perspective. We also see that we maybe not in a position where we can bet on American support for the long run in Europe. And so we need to create a much stronger, not only better funded, better staff, but a stronger European defense. Mm-hmm. And that is what we are trying to contribute to here. We also, for the next few years, going to exceed the 2% target of GDP.
And Elisabeth, I've got about 15 seconds. Just want to ask you, what's been the public...
Did he say 2%? That basically, that all European countries that are part of NATO have to pay 2% of their GDP to NATO? Oh, God. Anyways, let's continue. I just have no notes. I have no notes for this.
Reaction to news of,
crazy,
you know, including women in this conscription. Is there broad support for it?
Well, it's divided. There's divided support. And I also want to say that there is a series of parties. We have a lot of parties in the Danish parliament, but there's parties behind the general framework within the defense regulation. Two of them do not agree with this. So it's not set in stone that it's in fact going to be law that the women will also be conscribed.
Anna.
There's two parties that don't agree with it. For me, I'm not Danish, clearly. But if I lived in Denmark and I was Danish, I wouldn't be upset about women joining. I'd just be... I don't like war, period. I understand, you know, sometimes you need to protect your country and, you know, there needs to be a military there protecting the civilians. But that wouldn't be the issue for me. This is a distraction. Like, women joining, of course, anyone should, you know, it should be equal. Any job, any sector, the issue for me is the war. What are we fighting for? Who are we fighting for? Why are we fighting? Why are there no elections on fighting? Why can't we vote on whether we do actually even partake in wars? Because we fund the wars. Comes out of our taxes. Comes out. In fact, the reason why these wars last longer now, and they're able to do so many more wars than they could in the past, is because we no longer vote on wars. They actually just do cuts through money printing the money, devaluing the currencies that we have and we hold. They're able to use that money to fund wars without us kind of knowing. And that's why these wars last so long now. That's more of an issue to me than whether women join or not. It's like, should we even be fighting the wars, period? Yeah, it's all interesting to me.
Sophie Alnop joining us tonight from Copenhagen. I know we appreciate your time and your insights tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to know what you guys think. What do you guys think to this whole situation? What do you think, first of all, to the actual topic of the video? What do you think to women joining the military service? Do you think they should? Do you think, no, it should be just for men? Like, women should be at home, you know, raising children and living their lives. I don't know. Or do you think this is great, it's equality, women should be able to join and should be made to join? If men are made to join through conscription, it should be equal. That's the right thing to do. Do you think that? And also, what do you think in general to all these wars in general that we're fighting and we're made to fight? Because conscription is like mandatory, right? What do you guys think to that in Denmark? Yeah, I'd just like to know. It's really interesting. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, I will see you very soon.